Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shiur.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Shabbos Daf Kuf Zayin, on Daf Kuf Vav and Beis, at the Mishnah, 4 lines from the bottom. We will continue our discussion regarding the Melach of Tzeda of trapping an animal on Shabbos. Says the Mishnah, what if we have an animal, a deer, inside a home, but the doorway is completely open? Says the Mishnah, Yashavo Echad ala Pesach. Now a person came along and sat down by that doorway. He partially blocked it. He didn't completely block the doorway. Yashav Hasheni umilo. Then a second person came along and he completely blocked the doorway. He closed up that remaining gap. Hasheni Chayiv. The second one is Chayiv because he was the one who did the malach of trapping. Continues the Mishnah. Yashav Harishon ala Pesach umilo. What happens if the first person, when he sat down by the doorway, he completely blocked it? Uba Hasheni v'yashav betzidai. But then a second person came along and sat down by that doorway alongside the first person. So he's also completely blocking the doorway, but he's sitting behind the first person, so he's superfluous. He's not really doing anything at this point. Says the Mishnah, Afal Pi, she'amad harishan v'halach lei. Even though the first person got up and left the scene, leaving the second person in place, who by default, by the virtue of his presence in this doorway, is completely blocking the doorway and is preventing the animal from leaving. Says the Mishnah, nevertheless, who is chayiv? Harishon chayiv. Vasheni pater. Only the first one is chayiv. The second one is pater because the first one was the one who did the malach of tzeda. When the second person arrived, his arrival, it was not a mas of tzeda. He didn't in any way participate in the act of trapping. The deer was already fully trapped as a result of the first person. So his arrival was not a malach of tzeda. Now, although the first person left the scene, leaving him there in place, so by default, by his very presence, he is maintaining that status of tzedek. He's not allowing the deer to leave. But that's a passive nature. That's not an action. That's not a malacha. That's not a maisa. So he's merely maintaining that pre-existing condition which was created by the first person. Therefore, he's pater. Hasheni pater. Continues the Mishnah. What is this analogous to? One who closes the door of his home to safeguard the home. It turns out that there's a deer which is being guarded within it. So this deer was already trapped before Shabbos. It's tied up in ropes. Now he's closing the doorway of his home. Is that a malacha? Certainly not. The deer was already captured before, and he's not doing anything. Likewise, in our case, when the second person merely remains in place, he didn't actually participate in the malach of tzeda. He doesn't need to get up and leave. He's not doing anything. He's merely maintaining that pre-existing condition which was created and established by the first person who did the tzeda. Let's see Rashi inside. 7 lines from the bottom. Beginning of the words Hasheni Chayev. This is going back to the first case in the Mishnah, where Ruvain partially blocked the doorway. Shimon came along and completed the blockage. Hasheni Chayev Shehu Tzadeh, because he was the one who trapped the animal. Continues the Mishnah in the next case, where Ruvain completely blocked the entranceway, but then got up and left. The second person can remain in place. And the Mishnah says, Halamad Zedoim, says Rashi, Halamad Shein is Zedoim. This second person, what is he equated to? Since the deer was already trapped by the first person, it is analogous to a person who closes the door of his home to safeguard his home, not in order to trap. A deer which was already trapped before, he's being safeguarded within. So, as the Mepharshim speak out, even though perhaps the deer broke out of his ropes, and he's standing by the door, he wants to get out, there's no obligation, there's no chiv whatsoever for this person to open the doorway and allow the deer to go out, because at the point in time when he closed that doorway, he wasn't doing tzeda because the deer was already pre-captured. He was tied up in ropes. So although right now the deer is standing by the door, wants to get out, and it's the actual doorway which is preventing his exit, it doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. Because since at the point in time of his Maisa there was no Tzeda being done, we can't say, well, retroactively speaking, he did a Maaseh Tzedek because then, subsequently, it's preventing the deer from leaving. No. We view the Maaseh when it's happening. When he closed the doorway, was he doing anything wrong? No. Continues Rashi. V'chein afal b'sha'amad harishan. So likewise, in our case, where Reuven got up and Shimon remained in place, he's not doing anything. It's analogous to the case of a person who's merely going and maintaining a pre-existing condition. So in this case as well, Shimon is merely safeguarding the deer, which was already there from yesterday, meaning the deer was already trapped by Reuven. He's merely maintaining that state. He's maintaining that pre-existing condition. He didn't do anything when he arrived, and therefore he can stay, remain in place. He has no obligation whatsoever to get up and leave. Continues the Gemara. Amar Abba, Amar B'chia bar Ashi Amar Rav. Nichnasa lo tzipor tachas knafav. What if a bird enters under the flaps of a person's garment and can't get out? Yoishiv Meshamri. The person is allowed to just sit and watch it, safeguard it, until it darkens, until Matzah Shabbos comes. There's no obligation for him to open up the garment to allow the bird to leave. Let's see Rashi inside. Up on the top, on the first line, Tachas Knafav. So the bird entered Tachas Knafav, Tachas Kanfik Susoi, underneath the flaps of his garment. The bird has no way out. Shenina b'fan of Me'elav. Because he got it trapped in there on his own. It happened on his own. He didn't participate in the trapping. Therefore, Yoshev Meshamri Kain. He can simply sit and watch him as is. He doesn't need to open a window, an opening, to allow the bird to leave. Because he's simply safeguarding, he's maintaining that condition. Says the Gemara. 3 lines from the top. Mosif, Rav Nachman Yitzchak. Rav Nachman Yitzchak challenged this halacha. How can you say that it's mutar l'chatchila? One is permitted to engage in this type of activity, to safeguard the bird within it. He doesn't have to allow it to leave. The Mishnah says, Yoshav Arishan ala Pesach, Umil. So in the case where Reuven sat down by the doorway and completely blocked the doorway, Uba Sheni Yoshav Betzideh, and Shimon, the second fellow, came along, sat down beside him. Says the Mishnah, Afal B'Shamad Arishan V'Halachloi. So although the first person got up and left, Harishan Chayav, Hasheni Pater. It is the first one who is liable because he did the tzeidah. The second person is merely sitting there, who is merely passively present in that condition. He's merely maintaining the tzeidah. He's pater. My love, pater aval aser. Should we not interpret the word pater to mean, yeah, he's exempt, he's not liable from chatas, but it's still aser midrabanan. So likewise, in our case of the bird, midrabanan, he should have an obligation to allow the bird to leave. You can't do this. It's not permitted. It says Marlai, pater mutar. The Mishnah says pater, but not only is he exempt, this is mutar l'chatchila. He's not doing anything. Likewise, in the case of the bird, he's allowed to do this l'chatchila. Hachinami mistaver. This is very logical. The Tani Seifa. Because if we proceed to the latter part of the Mishnah, what does the Mishnah say? Lamaza doima. What is this equated to? To a person who closes the door of his home to safeguard his home. It turns out that there's a deer guarded within it. And Rashi points out, this is a common practice. There's no contention. We never heard any issue with regard to this type of practice. Apparently. The pater mutar. That this type of activity is considered to be not only exempt, but also mutar l'chatchila. Since the Mishnah equates the case of the second person remaining in place to the case of a person closing the door of his home, apparently just as the home scenario is mutar l'chatchila, likewise in the case of the person sitting by a doorway, not only is he pater, it's mutar l'chatchila, shma mino, indeed this is a raya. Likewise in the case of the bird, which is present under the flap of his garment, he can maintain that situation, and it is mutar l'chatchila. Some had a different version of this exchange of this Gemara. So we began with the halacha of the bird under his clothing. He's allowed to keep it in that position. And Rav Nachman Yitzchak, instead of challenging this halacha, he actually brought a raya. He supported it from our Mishnah. Omar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, afanan, us too, namitanina. We have actually a raya. We learned likewise in our Mishnah that it's mutar l'chatchila. Mishnah says, Afa bisha amad arishan v'halachlai. So although the first person got up and left, it is the first person who is chai, v'asheni pater. My love, doesn't it mean pater mutter? Not only is he exempt, but it is mutter, it's permitted. He can maintain that position. He can remain right there. He has no obligation to get up and leave. Likewise, in the case of the bird, it is permitted. It says more loy, not necessarily. Loy, pater v'lasser. Perhaps when the Mishnah says pater, it means he's exempt. He hasn't done a malacha deraisa, but it's asur d'rabbanan. Says the Rebbe, but how could you say that? Since the Mishnah proceeds by saying, what is this equated to? It's basically shabbat. So a person who closes his home, he locks his home to safeguard it. It turns out that there's a deer inside. And the Mishnah compares this to the previous case of the two people by a doorway. Apparently, not only is it exempt, but it's mutter l'chatchila, just as in the case of the home. Apparently, yes, it is mutter l'chatchila. Likewise, in the case of the bird, in his clothing, he can do this l'chatchila. Continues the Gemara, Amar Shmuel, Kol P'tur de Shabbos. Whenever we have a term of pater by Shabbos, pater aval asur. It means to say that it's pater, meaning he's exempt, he's not liable to chatas. Aval asur, but midrabanan it's asur. So this is a general formula. Levar, except mahani klas. Except for the following three items, they're pater and mutter. Not only are they pater, but it's also initially mutter, it's permitted. Chada, one is ha. This case of the deer. The second person can maintain that position, he can remain in place. There's no chiv whatsoever to get up and leave. Umimai the pater mutter. How do I know that not only is he pater, but it's mutter? The Tani Seifa, the same raya, because the Seifa says, so apparently it is mutter l'chatchil, just as in the case of safeguarding the home. So that's case number one. V'idach, what is the other example of pater or mutter? The Mishnah says, Meifas mursa b'Shabbos. So mursa is a boil which contains pus. So a person cracks it open. He punctures the mursa on Shabbos. Is that a malacha? So it depends what his intent is. Depends what he's doing. If he is intending on making for it, fashioning a proper opening to allow the pus that is constantly coming, so that pus should keep on draining out to allow the air in to heal it. In this case, he's doing a malacha. What is a malacha? Rashi says, either boina, he's building, or misakin kli, he's fixing a kli. So he's doing some sort of malacha here. Rashi says, even though it's not a kli, but fixing the makkah is also considered to be a tikkun. So he's building, he's fixing, and therefore he's chayav. However, if his intent and purpose is simply to extract the pus from within, he's not fashioning a proper opening. And also, and additionally, he's not doing a malacha tzrich l'gufa. He's not doing the malacha for its defined purpose. He's simply puncturing it to get the pus out. Therefore, he's pater. Now, Shmuel will tell us not only is he pater, but he's allowed to engage in this activity l'chatchila. The pater mutter. How do I know that not only is he pater, but it's mutter, it's permitted? This not, because we have a different Mishnah which says, this is discussing muktzah. Mishnah says machat, a person can be metal to move a machat shel yad, that's a small needle, a sewing needle, as opposed to the machat which is used for sacks. So this is a sewing needle. What can he use it for on Shabbos? Lita bos hakoitz, to extract the thorn embedded in the skin of the person. So although he's doing a malacha of chayvel, he's wounding himself, nevertheless it's mutter, because it's a malacha she'en tzricha l'gufa. He's not doing the malacha for its own defined purpose. He's merely trying to get the thorn out. So we're following Shita of Reb Shimon, who holds that that's not a malacha. And since it's a situation which involves tsar, physical pain, the Chachamim allowed this l'chatchila. So likewise, in the case of the Meifis Mursa, when he's puncturing the boil, it is muta l'chatchila. So that's case number two. What is the third and final case? V'idach, hatzot nachash b'Shabbos. The Mishnah says if a person traps a snake on Shabbos. Now it depends what his kavanah is. If he's simply involved in this, simply to prevent the snake from biting him. He doesn't need the snake. He's simply doing it to avoid being bitten. Pater. Because this is a malacha she'ena tzricha l'gufa. It's not needed for its own defined purpose. He's merely doing it to avoid being bitten. And certainly it involves tsar. It's a situation which can potentially involve physical pain. Therefore the Chacham allowed this l'chatchil. But if he's trapping it for a refuah purpose, he needs it for medicinal purposes, So then he's trapping it for the sake of trapping his chayiv. Now how do we know? Then the case where he's trapping it simply to avoid being bitten, it's pater and mutter permitted as well. This not because we learned in a different Mishnah, which says koifin ka'or al aner. One can invert a bowl, can overturn a bowl over a candle, so you can cover this lamp so it doesn't set the kaira, the beam, on fire, or to cover over the use the bowl to cover the waist of a cotton, and on a scorpion so it doesn't sting him. So apparently it's mutter. Not only is it pater, it's mutter l'chatchila. Once again, we're speaking out of melacha she'eina tzricha l'gufa in a situation of tsar, and therefore not only is it pater, but it is mutter l'chatchila. So in summary, Shmuel told us a chiddush that although generally speaking the term pater denotes exemption from liability, but it's still asur d'rabbanan. There are three exceptions. One is the case of our Mishnah of the deer being trapped in the home, where the second person is merely remaining in place after the first person left. He can stay right there. He has no obligation to get up whatsoever, because he did not commit a masa of tzeda. We have the case of the mephis mursa, where he punctures his boil in order to extract the pus from within. It's a malacha she'ena tzricha l'gufa. It's a makom of tsar. Likewise, in the case where a person traps the snake simply to prevent it from biting him, there as well it's mutar l'chatchila because it's ena tzricha l'gufa, and it is a makom of tsar. Hadron alach ha'erik, says the Mishnah. Shmoina shrotzim hamurim b'Torah. Those 8 shrotzim. Sheretz generally denote something which is low-lying and slithering, some type of creature which is low-lying, and these shrotzim, these 8 shrotzim, are actually singled out in the Torah. They have their own halachas. So those 8 shrotzim singled out, listed in the Torah. Ha'atzodan, if one traps them, v'achayil them, or he bruises them, chayav. Let's take a look at Rashi. Right in the middle of the Amid, beginning with the word Shmoina Shrotzim. So Achoylet va'achbar. So there's a list of 8 Shrotzim in the Torah. Achbar is a mouse. So among the list is a lizard, you have a weasel, a rat. So there are 8 of them that are singled out in the Torah. What is unique about them? Says Rashi, Hatzodon chayiv shebabina nitzad. If one traps them, he's chayiv, because these are generally captured. They have thick skin, they have hide. Tosis points out that, generally speaking, there's a point and purpose for capturing them. It's considered to be b'mina nitzad. It is a species which is generally captured. As Tosis says, the stam, the presumption is that a person will capture it for the sake of its hide. So it's considered to be something which is b'mina nitzad. Therefore, it's chayiv. V'achoylu ben chayiv. A person bruises them, he's chayiv as well. Why? The yesh lahen oyer. Because all of these 8 shrotzim are unique, in the sense that they have oyer. Their skin is of a thicker consistency, unlike ordinary creatures and vermin, which have just a flimsy encasement, a soft membrane, which is merely regarded as part of their flesh. They don't really have the concept of oyer, of hide, like an animal does. As opposed to these shmoina shrotzim singing down in the Torah, they have oyer. They have a hide. Therefore, if a person bruises these 8 shrotzim, the chabur, this bruise, is of a permanent nature. Therefore, it's considered a derivative of the mach of sheichet. He's extracting life, he's taking life. Because unlike ordinary shrotzim or masim, which don't have hide, so even though they get red, and by a person giving them a blow, they get red, and the blood gathers. Nevertheless, it's of a temporary condition. It's going to revert back to its natural state, as opposed to these specific shrotzim who have a thicker layer of skin. They have hide. In that case, the blood which gathers, this mark, this bruise, is of a permanent nature. Because it doesn't bruise so easily. They have thick skin. So when there is a bruise there, it indicates something more serious. That the blood has left the bloodstream. The capillaries have ruptured. So this blood is going eventually to be eliminated from the body. It has left its stream. And even a drop of blood is considered to be the life of the animal. So by eliminating that blood, by removing it from the bloodstream, he's engaged in a malacha of an atilas neshama. So once again, these 8 are unique in this sense. If a person bruises them, it's considered to be something of a permanent nature. The blood has permanently left the body, and therefore he's done the malacha of netilas neshama, as Rashi calls it, a tilada, a derivative of the malacha of sheichet. Let's go back to the Mishnah here. Once again, Shmoyne Shvatzim Hamumur Torah, those 8 Shvatzim which are listed in the Torah, Hatzana, one who captures them, Achayil them, bruises them, Chayiv. Ushash Gatzim or Masam. But other types of these small creatures and vermin, Hachayil them Palter, if one bruises them, he's Palter, because it's merely of a temporary nature. The redness will revert to its former state, and therefore it's not considered to be taking life. Hatzadam, what if one traps them? And it depends. Let's say Chayiv. If he does it for a positive purpose, he's Chayiv. But if he doesn't do it for a positive purpose, he's Pater. So once again, Tosfos points out that the reason why the Mishnah specifies this difference between Letzorech and Shlo Letzorech specifically by the other types of Shkatzim Ratzim, because the Shmoyne Shvatzim mentioned in the beginning of the Mishnah, generally speaking, the presumption there is that it's done Letzorech because they have the hide. So the presumption is that he's trapping it for a positive purpose. Concludes the Mishnah. An animal or bird which is under the control of a person, Hatzad and Potter, if he captures them, he's Potter because they're already trapped. But if he bruises them, he is Chayiv. Continues the Gemara. The fact that the Mishnah says that these 8 Shvatzim are unique in a sense that if one bruises them, he has committed a malacha. Michlal, apparently the Islu'er, all 8 of them have hide. Their skin is of a thicker consistency. They have a status of oir, of hide, and therefore the bruising is considered to be a malacha of netilas neshama. Man Tana, which opinion is reflected in our Mishnah, who maintains that all 8 shvatzim have oir, have hide, and we don't consider their skin merely to be part of their flesh, like the other shvatzim. Who differentiates between these 8 and the rest of them? Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nurihi. It is the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. This now, as we went to the Mishnah. So this is a Mishnah in Chulin, which discusses an entirely different topic. Let's give a brief introduction. Now, we know that a behema, a chaya, which dies, is considered to be a nevela, so its carcass is metame and parts tumah, as opposed to these low-lying, slithering creatures, shkatzim ramasim, who die. They're not considered to be a nevela, and they don't transmit tumah. However, these shmoyne shvatzim are different. These 8 listed in Torah, singled out in the Torah, have their own status. So if they are dead, they are metame. Now the flesh of these shvatzim certainly is metame. What about the encasing, the hide, the oir? Now, no, generally speaking, a nevela is only metame through the basar of the nevela, the flesh of an animal, but not its bone, not its oir, not its hide, not its leather. What about these shkatzim, these shvatzim, hamurim b'Torah? Well, it depends. Do we consider their encasement as oir? Then they're not metame. But if we regard the skin merely as part of its flesh, it's not considered to be significant enough to be regarded as oir, then it's really just part of the flesh of these sheretz, and certainly it can transmit tumah just as the flesh does. Now our Mishnah, which teaches us that these shmoyne shvatzim all feature oir, they have hide on them, therefore if a person bruises them, he's chayiv. Likewise, when it comes to tumah, their oir is not metame. So this concurs with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who maintains that the shmoyne shvatzim have oir with regard to tumah as well, and the oir of the shmoyne shvatzim is not metame. In contrast to the opinion of the Rabbanan, who say, well, it depends. 4 of these shvatzim have oir, are considered to have leather, hide, as opposed to the other 4, whose skin is merely considered to be part of their flesh. They do not have oir. Let's see inside. Again, from the beginning of the Gemara. The fact that the Mishnah says if a person bruises these 8, he's chayiv. Michlal dis oir. Apparently, they all have oir. Mantana, whose opinion is this? Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. This is not Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Omer, Shmoyne Shratzim, all 8 of them, Yesh Lem Oyros. They all feature Oyer, hide, and therefore the Oyer is Torah. As opposed to the Chachamim, who maintain that at least when it comes to 4 of them, their encasement does not have a status of Oyer, and therefore it is metame just like its flesh. Likewise, when it comes to Shabbos, we assume that if a person bruises those 4, he's not committed any malacha because they don't have Oyer. Says the Gemara, this is Shmuel's opinion, who aligns the 2 topics. He says the 2 things are interrelated. The Chachamim maintain that 4 of these creatures don't have Oyer when it comes to Tumah. Likewise, when it comes to Shabbos, they don't have Oyer. Rabba, Barafuna Amar Rav, he says no, Afilu Teim Rabbanon. Even if our Mishnah follows the sheet of Rabbanon, there's a difference between Tumah and Shabbos. Ad kan lo pligi Rabbanon, Olei de Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. When do we see that there's a machlekes? Up until when? Up until now, we know that there's a machlekes between Rabbi Yochanan Nuri and the Rabbanon. That is only with regard Elalinian Tumah, when it comes to Tumah. Why? It's Exeris HaKosav. They derive from a pasuk. The pasuk, there's 2 psukim which splits the 8 shratzim. So the pasuk says on one of the groups of shratzim, Eila Hatmeim Lachem. These are the ones that are talking to you, l'rabbis, Shiur saying kibsaron. The pasuk here is telling you that with regard to these 4, you meant to regard their hide, their encasement, their skin, kibsaron, to give it granted the same status as its flesh, and therefore they are metame just as the flesh is metame. So with regard to 4 of them, the pasuk tells us you meant to treat the skin as its flesh. But regarding the other 4, no, the skin is not metame. So the pasuk splits the 2, but that's strictly when it comes to Tumah. Avalin in Shabbos, but when it comes to Shabbos, Afilu Rabbanon Maidu, even the Chachamim agree, they concede to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri that all 8 of them actually have Oyer. They have skin which is considered to be hide. And therefore a Chabura committed to any one of these 8 is considered to be a Chabura and a Melach. So once again, the machlekes is only pertaining to Tumah because of a pasuk. But practically speaking, physically speaking, all 8 of them have skin which is of a thicker consistency and is different than the other low-lying, slithering vermin. These 8 have Oyer, have hide. So if one bruises them, he's chayiv. It is only strictly when it comes to Tumah, because of Exeris HaKosav, that 4 of them, according to Rabbanan, are regarded, their skin is regarded as their flesh and as matame. Says the Gemara, is that the case? Ulini in Shabbos le'pli, there's no machlokes by Shabbos? Vatani, we learned in the price. Hatzad echad mishmoine shratzim amurim b'Torah. One traps one of these 8 shratzim, v'achoyel them, or he bruises them chayiv. So all 8 are categorized together. Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. V'chacham oimrim, ein oir ela l'ma shemanu chachamim. They're responding to him. They're saying, you hold that when it comes to Shabbos, all 8 of them, all of these shmoine shratzim have oyer, they have hide, and if one bruises them, he has done a malacha. You meant to know, ein oyer, the only ones that have hide, that their skin is regarded as oyer and not as flesh, is only those l'ma shemanu chacham, only those that were listed by the chacham, enumerated by the chacham on that list of 4 shratzim, which are considered to be oyer kibasar, in which their skin is regarded like their flesh and is metame. Only those have hide. Says, what's going on here? Adrab, just the opposite. L'ma shemanu chachamim ein lehem oyer. Those that were listed, they don't have oyer. Their skin is considered to be part of their flesh, and therefore the skin is metame. So the wording here is just doesn't work. So Abaye said, well, this is what the Tana meant to say. The Chacham are saying to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, ein oyer cholak mi basar. When is the oyer considered to be a separate entity from the flesh, and it is regarded as an entity on its own, a din of oyer? And if one should bruise this type of sheretz, he is chayev. What type of sheretz are we speaking about? Ella, only l'ma shaloi manu chacham, only those that were not on that list, because that list is listing those 4 in which the oyer is like the basar. There's no din oir on those four. It's only the ones that are not on that list that have a din of oir, and if one bruises them, he's chayv. So this indeed is a kasha on Rav, who maintains that all agree when it comes to Shabbos. A bruise applied to any of these shmoina shratzim is a malacha. Because physically speaking, they all have hide, they all have oir. It's strictly when it comes to tumah, there's a gzeres hakasav, that four of them, their skin is regarded as their flesh. But that is unrelated to Shabbos. Here we have a brisa clearly indicating that according to Rabbanim, only four are regarded as having oir when it comes to Kabbalah on Shabbos. So it's a kasha on Rav. Amalei Rava. So in any case, Rava responded to Abaye. How could you interpret the brisa in this manner, in the way which you interpreted it? It says, L'masha manu chachamim. Ha'lemasha manu chachamim ka'amar. Chacham are using the words L'masha manu chachamim. Those creatures, which the Chachamim enumerated listed in their list. The list of oir kabasar, in which their skin is regarded like their flesh. So how can you say that the Chacham are speaking about the ones that are not on the list? The Bryce is clearly using the words L'masha manu chachamim. So your interpretation doesn't really fit. Ela marava. Hachi kamar. This is what the Tana means to say. Rabbi Yechim began the Bryce by saying, all 8 of these shratzim have oir. So if one bruises them, he is chayv. Chacham respond by saying, ein oir metame kabasar. Chacham agree when it comes to chavola, when it comes to bruising, wounding on Shabbos, all 8 of them have oir. Physically speaking, their skin is thick, is regarded as hide. A bruise is a bruise and as a malach. Chacham was speaking about tumah, entirely different subject. And they're saying as follows, ein oir metame kabasar. The only time the skin is equated to the flesh with regard to tumah is only those only those that were listed by the Chacham, only those 4. In those cases, the skin is equated to the flesh and is matami, but not the other ones. But this strictly when it comes to tumah, they agree that with regard to Shabbos, all 8 of them have oir. Says the Gemara, okay, so you worked it out that it's not a kasha Rav, but the wording is difficult. Why? Because who are the Chacham responding to? They're saying, you're meant to know. Rabbi Yechim, you're meant to know that only 4 on this list, with regard to Tumah, their oir is like Basa, but not the rest. Apparently, Rabbi Yechim will hold, Hanach Nami, even those not listed by the Chacham, even the other 4, Metamen, their skin is Metamen like their flesh. Why then would the Chacham need to respond to him in this manner? Apparently because he holds that not only those 4 are Metame, their skin is Metame like their flesh, even the other ones, their skin is Metame like their basar. That's not the case. V'ha'ktani, we've learned clearly in the Mishnah, mentioned right in the beginning of our Gemara, this Mishnah in Chulin, clearly Rabbi Yechim says, Rabbi Yechim ches shratzim yesh lam oir shlam Metame, all 8 of them have oir, and they're not matame. So why did the Chacham need to respond and say, well, you meant to know, Rabbi Yechim that only 4 of them are matame, but the other ones are not matame. Apparently, Rabbi Yechim holds that all of them are matame. Just the opposite. Rabbi Yechim holds that all of them, all 8, are not matame. Says the Gemara, Omar ba'adu b'masna tritachi. Let's interpret the Bryce as follows. The Bryce opens with a statement from Rabbi Yechim who tells us that if one bruises any one of the Shmoinei Shratzim, he has committed a malacha because all of them have oir. Their skin is thick enough to be deemed hide. So a bruise which is applied to this skin is considered to be a malacha. So according to Rabbi Yechim when it comes to Tumah as well, all Shmoinei Shratzim are deemed to have hide, and their skin, their oir, is not matame. It doesn't have a din of basar. The Chacham respond by saying, look, we agree when it comes to Shabbos, where practicality is what determines. So the physical nature of the skin is what determines matters, and therefore we agree that all Shmoinei Shratzim, their skin is deemed thick enough to be considered oir. If one bruises them, he has done a malacha. It is only strictly when it comes to Tumah. Within the concept of Tumah, we disagree. The Chacham Raimim, L'inyan Tumah, ein oir l'mashamanu Chacham. Those which are listed by the Chacham, those 4, their skin is not regarded like oir, like hide, Rather, it is tantamount, is considered to be like the flesh of the shvatzim, and is matame, like its basar. The Torah teaches us it's a pasuk. We derive from a drasha. Perhaps the pasuk is telling us that when it comes to tumah, a different level of thickness is required. Whatever the case is, it's specific to the context of tumah. But when it comes to Shabbos, we agree that all shmona shvatzim are deemed to have thick enough skin to be considered oir, considered hide, and a bruise applied is a malacha. This is in accordance with Rav, who tells us that all agree when it comes to Shabbos that all shmona shvatzim are considered to have oiris. Continues the Gemara. V'akati, still on all, Lini and Shabbos, they don't disagree when it comes to Shabbos. V'atanya, but haven't we learned in the Brisa, Hatzad Echad, Mishmona Shvatzim, Hamar B'Torah, if one captures one of the 8 Shvatzim that are listed in Torah, V'achayil them, or he bruises them, Chayav. Now, which one did he bruise? B'Shvatzim Sheyesh Lem Oiris. Only those 4 that are deemed to have hide. Continues the Brisa. What is regarded as a permanent bruise that doesn't revert back to its natural state? Nitzur Hadam, if the blood bunches up, gathers together and bunches up, even though it didn't actually emerge from the creature, that is considered to be a bruise of permanent nature, and it will not be reabsorbed into the bloodstream. It's considered to be a malach. So according to Tanakama, only specifically those 4 are considered to have oiros, and a bruise applied to them is considered a malach. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omer, all 8 are considered to have hide. So it's clear that there's a machlekes when it comes to Shabbos as well. Amar Rav Ashi, Man Tanakama. Who is this Tanakama? It's not the Chachamim. It's actually a third shita, Rabbi Yehuda, the Azal Basar Gishta, because he follows the consistency, Gishta, the thickness of the creature. The Snan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, when it comes to Tumah, he holds Halata Kechulda. This creature called Lata has the same din as the Chulda, meaning that it has a din of oir, its skin is deemed thick enough, and therefore is categorized in the same category as the Chulda, in which the oir is separate from the basar, is not regarded like a part of its flesh, and it's not matame. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, there are actually 5 of the 8 shvatzim where we consider the skin to be separate from the basar, and the skin is considered to be oir and it's not matame. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's not based on the derivation of the pasuk. It's not based on exeris hakasa. Rather, it's simply a practical consideration. Something which has thick enough skin is considered to be oir, and therefore it's not matame like it's basar. Likewise, when it comes to Shabbos, only these 5 are deemed to have oir, and a bruise applied to them is a malacha. So he is the Tanakama who disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. He holds that only 5 of these 8, if one bruises them, he has done a malacha. But the Chachamim, Aval Rabbana, the Pligale, to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, but the Chachamim who dispute Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Lini and Tumah, when it comes to Tumah, they hold that it's because of the pasuk that splits the 8 into 2. They say that 4 of these 8, their skin is regarded like their flesh because of exeris hakasav, not because of a practical consideration. So Lini and Shabbos moidele, but that's specific to Tumah. However, when it comes to Shabbos, where the practical consideration and consistency of the skin is what carries the day, what determines the halacha, they agree that all 8, their skin is deemed thick enough to be considered oir, and therefore a bruise applied to any of the 8 is deemed a malacha. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, the Chum agree. So let's go back to the Brisa. Brisa told us that if one applies a bruise to any one of these 8 shvatzim, he's chayiv. And the Brisa on the last line of Aleph says, Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. These are the words of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Now, according to you, the Chacham agree to this as well. When it comes to Shabbos, a bruise applied to any one of the Shmona Shvatzim is considered a malach. Ihachi, says the Gemara. If that's the case, that the Chacham agree, Hi, Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Why did the Brisa pick these words? Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri machal kosam yiboyle. The Brisa just said that these are the words of Rabbi Yochanan and his disputants, meaning even the Chacham who disagree when it comes to Tumah, they agree when it comes to Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Tni, indeed, learn the words as follows, reword the Brisa Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri umachloi kasa. Indeed, even the Chacham will agree when it comes to Shabbos that a bruise applied to any one of the Shemona Shvatzim is deemed a malacha. So in summary, the Shemona Shvatzim that are listed in the Torah, do they have a din of oir? Is their skin considered to be like hide? Or is it considered to be like part of the flesh? Let's start with the halachas of Tumah. We have 3 shittas. According to the Rabbanon, we learn from a pasuk that the skin of 4 of these 8 creatures is regarded as oir, as hide, and is not matame. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's a practical consideration. 5 of these have thicker skin, and therefore it is regarded as oir, and is not matame like the basar. According to Rabbi Nuri, all 8 of them are regarded as having oir and are not matame. They're not considered like the flesh of these shvatzim. When it comes to Shabbos, Shmuel tells us that Shabbos and Tumah are equated with each other. And according to the Chachamim, only with regard to 4 of these 8, if one would bruise them, he has done a malacha. According to Rav, there's a big difference between Tumah, because there's a pasuk by Tumah to tell us that 4 of these, their skin is regarded like their flesh. But when it comes to Shabbos, all 8 of them are deemed to have thick enough skin to be considered hide, considered oir, and a bruise committed to any of them is considered malacha. According to Rabbi Yehuda, 5 of these 8 are considered to have thick enough skin. According to Rabbi Nuri, all 8 of them have oir, and a bruise applied is considered to be a malacha. Continues the Gemara, Boy mine, Levi mi Rebbe. Levi asked the following question of Rebbe. The whole Gemara is working with a formula that a chabura is only considered to be a chabura if it is of a permanent nature. If it doesn't go back to its natural state. But a bruise which returns to its natural state is not reckoned with on Shabbos. How do we know this? How do we know that something is only considered a chabura if it is of a permanent nature and does not revert back to its natural state? So he said dichsiv, because the pasuk says, can the Cushite with his dark skin, can he changes the color of his skin? V'nomer, or a leopard, chabar b'roisav, its spots? Now, my chabar b'roisav, what does this word mean? Ilay medekoi rikmi, it's referring to its spots. We're using the wrong word. Hi, v'nomer chabar b'roisav? Nomer givanav mebayli. The pasuk should have said, a leopard, its colors. This word, chabar b'roisav, is not indicative of spots. Ella, rather, the pasuk is teaching us something with regard to chabura. The word chabar b'roisav is teaching us a halacha. Elo kekushi, that a chabura is meant to be equated with his kushite, with his dark skin. Ma oiroi de kushi, just like the skin of a kushite, ein chazeres, cannot change. Av chabura, likewise, a chabura is only considered to be a chabura if it is ein chazeres, if it doesn't revert back to its natural state. If it has a permanent nature to it, that is considered to be a chabura. Continues the Gemara. The Mishnah told us that if one bruises the 8 shvatzim, those shmeina shvatzim that have oir is considered to be a malacha. But other things, shar, shkatzim, or masim, if one bruises them, he's potter. Says the Gemara, what we infer from here, hergon, if he actually kills them, he's chayiv. Although they're flimsy creatures, they don't have atzomais, vegidim, they don't have bones or sinews. Man Tana, who's Tana? Which shita is reflected in this Mishnah that maintains that if he kills any one of those flimsy creatures, he's chayiv? Omar v'yirmi Rabbi Lezeri. The son is learned in the Bryce. If one kills a louse on Shabbos, that is tantamount to killing a large camel. As opposed to the Chachamim who maintain, if one kills a louse, he's potter. So apparently, why? Because it's a flimsy creature. It doesn't have atzamas v'gidim. It's our Mishnah, which tells us that if a person kills even a flimsy creature, is chayiv, is Rabbi Lezer shita, and not the Chacham. Maskefla, Rabbi Yosef challenged this. Adkan pligi Rabban Alei Rabbi Lezer. We only find that Rabban disagreed with Rabbi Lezer, specifically Ella Bekina, only with regard to a louse, because there ain't a parver of it. It doesn't reproduce. Aval Shash Gotzim or Masam, but other types of creatures, the parver that they indeed reproduce. Loi pligi. They don't disagree, and therefore in our Mishnah, other creatures that are parver of it that reproduce, if a person kills them, according to all shitas, he'll be chayiv. It's only specifically to something which doesn't have the ability to reproduce. Now, what is the basis of their opinions? It says the Gemara, Shneim lo ylamdu elam elam. Both the Rabbanon who maintain that he is potter for killing a louse because it doesn't reproduce, and Rabbi Lezer says chayiv, they both learned it from the rams, the elam which were used in the Melechas HaMishkan. Since everything on Shabbos is learned from the Mishkan, so they both derive their respective opinions from there. Rabbi Lezer savar ke'elam just as the rams, ma'ilim, sheish b'hem netilas neshama, that the concept of removing life, taking their life, applies to the rams. Av kol, likewise, any type of creature, sheish b'hem netilas neshama, that has this type of concept of taking life, he will be chayiv, even a louse. Rabbanan savri ke'elim. We equate it to the rams. Ma'ilim, the parim v'ravim. Just like the rams reproduce, called the parim. Likewise, anything which has the ability to reproduce, if one takes his life, it's chayiv, as opposed to a louse, which doesn't reproduce, it lives off the person's skin, it generates from a person's flesh. Now, although today we know, the Farshim speak out, today we know that even lice hatch from eggs that are laid, but those eggs are so tiny and they're not regarded, not reckoned with. When it comes to the halachas of the Torah, we apply the concept of lo nitna Torah lemalach hasharis. The Torah was not given to angels. So when it comes to the halachas of the Torah, we only take into consideration something which is visible to the human eye, to the naked eye. So although they indeed hatch from these tiny eggs, but it's not regarded, it's not reckoned with. We consider them to be ein parvarov, as though they get created off the person's skin, and therefore they're not considered to be significant. They're not equated with those rams, and therefore, according to the Chacham, if one kills them, he's patur. Says the Gemara, Amali Abaye, v'kina ein parvarov. Do you maintain that a louse does not reproduce? V'amar mar, haven't we learned? Yoshev HaKadosh Baruch Hashem sits, v'zon, and he sustains, from the largest of creatures to the smallest of creatures. Mikan re'emen, from this large beast, from these large beasts, v'ad beitzei kinim, until the small eggs that produce the lice. Apparently, they're hatched from eggs. Says the Gemara, we're not speaking about lice. Mina hu de mikra beitzei kinim is referring to a certain type of species, which is called beitzei kinim. V'atanya, haven't we learned in a different brayso? Tfuye, this is another type of creature. Tfuye beitzei kinim. So here again we see that the kinim come from beitzim. Says the Gemara, no, mina hu de mikra beitzei kinim, referring to a certain type of species, which are called beitzei kinim. So in summary, the machlokes is only with regard to something which doesn't reproduce, but something of a different type of nature, even though it doesn't have atzamis v'gidim, but if it has the ability to reproduce, all agree if one kills it is chayiv. Says the Gemara, vari parosh, but this type of creature, some say it's a certain type of louse, the paver of it reproduces. The Tanya, nevertheless, we learned in the brayso, hatzod parish for Shabbos, if one traps this creature, Reb Lezer mechayiv, Reb Shua paiter. So you see, according to Reb Shua, he's pater. Apparently, because this thing does not have atzamis v'gidim, it's not considered to be significant enough, and therefore he's pater if he traps it. The Gemara at this point equates trapping to killing. If it's not significant enough that the melach of tzeda applies to it, apparently, even if a person kills it, it's not a significant enough creature to hold him liable. Says the Gemara, Amar Vashi, tzeda arika karamis. You're asking from trapping to killing. There's no connection between the two. Ad kan lepligi Reb Lezer B'Shua. We only find that there's a machlokes between those two, Lezer and B'Shua, only with regard to trapping. Why? Ella, only the Mar Savar, Dovar, She'ein B'mina Nitzat Chayiv. Reb Lezer holds, even though it's something which is not generally, this species is not generally something which is captured, nevertheless he's Chayiv. Umar Savar Pater, B'Shua holds, this parish is not something which is generally captured for a constructive purpose. It's not considered to be B'mina Nitzad, and therefore if he captures it, it's not a malach of tzeda that he did, and he's patur. So this is specific to tzeda, haval, linyariga. But when it comes to killing, I feel like B'Shua Maida, even B'Shua agrees if one actually kills it, he is chayiv, even though it does not have a atzamis v'gidim, and indeed, this concurs what we said earlier, that all, even flimsy creatures that don't contain atzamis v'gidim, if a person actually kills them, he is chayiv. So in summary, we learned that regarding other types of shkatzim or masim, if a person kills them, even if they don't have atzamas v'gidim, is chayiv. Now, with regard to something which is not par v'rava, which doesn't reproduce, Reb Lezer says it's chayiv. When the chacham is pater, and this depends on the way we learn from the elim and the midbar. What if a person captures? So if it's something which is generally captured, b'minay nitzad, is chayiv. If something is ein b'minay nitzad, Reb Lezer says it's chayiv. Reb Shua says it's pater. Continues the Gemara. Hatzadan l'tzerachayit. Mishnah told us if he captures those other types of creatures, if it is for a positive purpose, it's chayiv, but otherwise it's pater. Mantana, whose opinion here? Whose opinion is being represented in this Mishnah? Amar Abida Marav, Reb Shimoni. The Amar Malacha she'en tzricha legufa pater le. One performs a malacha which is not needed for its own defined purpose. He's pater. Like the case of trapping this creature, not for the sake of trapping, simply wants to get away from it. So it's not tzricha l'gufa, and therefore he's potter. Ika de masin lo, aha, some apply this statement of Rabbi Yehuda to a different Mishnah. Ha'mefes mursa b'Shabbos, if one punctures the boil on Shabbos, im las lo peh, if the intention is lasas lo peh, to fashion an opening, and he's chayiv. Im lo tzimen alecha, if he's simply trying to get the pus out, potter. Man Tana, whose shita is this? Amar b'damarav, Reb Shimoni, the Amar malacha she'tzrich l'gufa, potter lel. Here as well, he's simply puncturing it to get out the pus. He has no intention to actually make the opening. It's a malacha she'en tzricha l'gufa. It's not needed for its own defined purpose. Therefore, it's potter. The Ika, the Masin laha. Some applied this statement of Yehuda to a different Mishnah. Hatzod nachash b'Shabbos. If one traps a snake on Shabbos, imis asik b'shlei shchenu. If he's simply involved with it to prevent it from harming him, from biting him, potter. Imler for if he's trapping the snake to use it as a medicine, chayiv. Man Tana, who is a Tana? Which Tana is represented in this Mishnah? Amar v'damarav, Reb Shimoni, the Amar malacha she'en tzricha l'gufa potter lel. So if he's simply doing it, trapping it to get it away from him, that's called en tzricha l'gufa, and he's potter. Amar Shmuel, ha'shoyle dog min hayam, if one pulls a fish out of the water, kimin sheyovesh by kesela, once it dries up even a little bit the size of a coin of a sela chayav, because he has killed the fish. Amar v'yisrael Ravin, ubnei snat pibar. This dryness needs to be in a specific location between its fins. That's a critical location, and it won't survive anymore. It's considered to have killed the fish. Amar Rashi, lo yitema. Don't think yovish mamish. It needs to absolutely be dry. El afilu davadriri. Even if it's dry enough that if a person, when he removes his finger after touching it, these thin, slimy residue gets pulled along with his finger, that is considered to be dry enough, and the fish cannot survive any longer. Amar Mar Bar Hamduri, Amar Shmuel. So Mar Bar Hamduri said in the same name of Shmuel. How you should yodel behema? If one extends his hand into the innards of a behema, v'dildel ubashmea, and he dislocated the embroid inside her, chayiv. My time and why? Amar Rav. Bar Hamduri Azrali. Bar Hamduri explained it to me. Lav Amar Rav Sheshes. Did Rav Sheshes tell us? Hayman de tolash kishusa. If one detaches kishusa, this is a plant called hops. He detaches it from its place of growth, from these bushes on which it is growing. Mechayev, he's chayev. Why? Mishum oika dav migdulay, on account of uprooting something from its place, from its source of growth. Hachanam here as well with the embroid. Mechayev, he is liable. Why? Mishum oika dav migdulay, because he is detaching something from its place of growth. Amar Bai, another example. Hayman de tolash pitra. If one detaches fungus, mi'una de chatzba, from the handle of the pitcher, mechayev. He's liable. Why? Mishum oiker dava migdulei, because he's detaching something from its source of growth. Says the more, is that the case? Maser of Yoshe. Yoshe challenged from a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Hatoilish motzis nok. If one detaches a plant from a perforated flower pot, chayev. Why? Because it is considered to be attached to the ground. But if the flower pot is unperforated, and he detaches something from there, potter. Although he's detaching something from its place of growth. Says what there's a difference. Hasam over there, lav hainu revisei. This is not regarded as its natural habitat. Rashi says, ein derech zriya sham. Generally speaking, a person plants in the ground itself. Therefore, detaching from within the flower pot is not considered to be a malacha. Hacha. However, in this case, hainu revisei. The fungus is meant to grow on the handle of the kli. Likewise, when we discuss the embroid inside the animal, or the hops growing on the bushes, that's its natural place of growth. Therefore, detaching it from there is considered to be oiker davar migdulei, detaching something from its source of growth, and he's chayiv. Good time for a brief review of today's daf. We began with Shmuel telling us there are three halachas in which a person is not only pater, but it's even mutar l'chatchila. Number one was the case of the trapped deer, where the first person trapped it, the second person sat alongside him, the first person got up and left. The second person can merely stay in his position because he's simply maintaining a pre-existing condition. It's mutal chadchila. We have a case where a person is mefes morsa, he punctures the boil simply to let the pus out, or the case where a person traps the snake simply it doesn't bite him. In these cases, it is mutal chadchila. We learned about the concept of chabura. A bruise is only considered to be a malacha if it is of a permanent nature. We learned that the Shmoina Shratzim, singled out by the Torah, they have a concept of ur. Their skin is regarded as leather. Now, how many of them? So, when it comes to Shabbos, Rabbi Yochanan Nuri maintains all 8 of them have ur, and a bruise applied to all 8 of them is considered to be a malacha. Rabbi Yehuda maintains only 5 of them whose skin is thick enough to be considered like hide. According to the Chachamim, well, it depends. Shmuel maintains only 4 of them. Just like when it comes to Tumah, only 4 of them are considered to have oir. Likewise, by Shabbos. Rav says, Tumah is specific because it's a pasuk. But when it comes to Shabbos, Rabban agreed to Rechim Nuri that all 8 of them are regarded as having oir, and therefore a bruise applied to all of them is considered malacha. The Gemara told us, if one kills other types of creatures, even if they don't have atzamas v'gidim, is chayiv. But what about if it doesn't have the ability to reproduce, like a louse? Blazer says he's chayiv, Chum says he's pater. If one traps, if it's something which is b'mina nita generally trapped, he's chayiv. If it's something which is not generally trapped, according to Blazer is chayiv, according to Shiur is pater. The Gemara told us if one takes a fish out of the water, even if it dries the amount of a seller, it can't survive. He has done a malacha. The Gemara concludes with the concept. If one uproots something from its source of growth, he has done a malacha and he's chayiv.